I would like to, just in reply, this is a very important bill, despite some of the commentary about this being a superficial visual for the government. This is in fact a very, very important bill and an important reform and delivering on the government's promise. And I want to acknowledge the contributors to the debate, the Honourable Abigail Boyd, the Honourable Damien Tudorhope, the Honourable Rod Roberts and the Honourable Cameron Murphy. I will not delay the House unduly, but I do want to put a couple of things on the record and address some of the comments that were made. This is about placing workers at the centre of the decision-making process because of all the travails and the litany of disaster we heard over that last term with the administration of ICare, it was the workers who, at the end game, suffered the most for a service that was supposed to deliver them an outcome. And I'll just go through a friend of mine who I actually used to look after as a shop steward at Ausgrid. He's a delegate. His name's Rob Baldock. He told me of his story in dealing with the workers' compensation system. He suffered, and this is not unusual, Madam Deputy President. You will find that if you are an organiser in these industries where workers come off second best, this is a very, very sadly common tale. Robert suffered a spine injury while working as an electrician in 2019. Since his injury, Robert has dealt with a range of incompetence and miscommunication between the doctors, himself, the insurance company and ICare. There was a long-running dispute spanning out many years that eventually Robert ended up winning because he was a fighter and he was prepared to take it up legally. Not everyone has the wherewithal or the financial resources or the patience or can deal with the stress, but Robert saw it through. But this happened over a very, very long period of time. The situation caused Robert, and I quote, "great financial stress. I have lost my family home. I am divorced and have lost contact with my children." Robert also said the process has been totally debilitating, degrading and exhaustive. It is so important that voices of injured workers are heard by the decision makers at ICare. Now, having a workers' representative on the board, along with an employer's representative, is going to create a transmission mechanism from those sorts of realities into the governance. And I also want to acknowledge the presence of the Minister, Sophie Kotsis, here, who has worked relentlessly to get this sort of reform up with the Injured Workers Network Group, who are ably represented here by Michael Bible, who's also in the President's Gallery. People like Grizel Carrera, who's also part of that group. They've been campaigning relentlessly. A small dedicated band of activists who take it up to us in opposition and those opposite when they were in government, and that's resulted in what we've ended up here with today. And again, I remind people, this is an election promise and it's typical Labor, employing a tripartite model of unions, business and government to get things sorted out. It will make a difference. It will make a difference. I just want to briefly address some of the issues raised by, well, one in particular, the Honourable Abigail Boyd, who suggested, no, it's okay, it's a very important suggestion. She suggested we had a standing committee, a standing consultative committee to deal with some of these issues that would be ongoing and have real consultative input. I've spoken to the Minister. The Minister's undertaken that we're happy to implement that. That is a good suggestion and a good reform, and we think it would add value. In terms of the Honourable Damien Tudorhope's comments that there was a sort of a flippant referral to the fact that we were doing this for cosmetic processes and that it wasn't really going to make any difference. I just point out that you supporting the bill, you could have done this in government. You could have done it in government, but we're actually doing it because we promised it. Now, you did point out, I'm sorry, through you, Madam Deputy Chair, the leader of the opposition did point out that the minister would not be required to, the minister would have autonomy to appoint anyone she wanted, and there was no applicable vetting test. It's not actually correct. The minister is required to apply a filter to the appointment of those nominees, and it is actually in section 53 of the Act, and I'll quote the Act: "The appointed directors are to be persons who, in the opinion of the minister, together have the skills and experience relevant to the administration of state insurance and care schemes, and that will assist ICNSW in exercising its functions." So the minister does not have to. The minister does not have carte blanche authority to say, "I will pick Joe Bloggs who doesn't have any qualifications." She's got to satisfy that test, and I'm sure the minister will do that. Look, without delaying the House any further, Madam Deputy President, this is a small, simple but very important reform which is going to put workers front and centre of the decision-making process. Very, very proud to be representing a government who's doing this. Very proud of the minister's work, Unions New South Wales in particular, and the Injured Network, the Injured Persons Network, and I commend the bill to the House.